So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So I've been in the industry for 20 years, clinical research.
Nice.
I started working with a physician as a clinical research coordinator right out of high school. And there we did industry studies. So for Merck, Pfizer, Johnson and Johnson, we did the therapeutic studies. So we worked within the African American community and Hispanic community, and this was in San Diego, actually.
San Diego, nice
Yes,
city.
San Diego, California. And so we worked on anemia studies, high blood pressure studies, diabetes, and it was, Merck would have a new diabetic medication and they wanted to have the data collected. So they would recruit the investigators and the study coordinators will work with the investigator to screen the patients, make sure that they qualified with the labs, and then perform the procedures if they were in the study 6 months, 1
Could be
year.
longer,
It's 1 year, and collect the data. And then, so I did that for 4 years and working on many studies throughout that time. And then after I graduated from San Diego State.
So do you like get involved at the beginning of the study or towards the end after they publish? Or
So we get involved usually in phase 1. So some investigators you can be in at phase 1, others phase 2, 3, and 4. So in the 20 years, I've worked in all phases, phase 1 through 4.
Okay.
So it definitely depends on the sponsor and their need at that time.
Okay.
I like phase 1. I've done a lot of like oncology phase 1 studies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then or even healthy volunteer studies with phase 1, just to get that first snapshot of data.
Okay.
And then from there, they will make a decision. Do we go to the next phase, the next phase, next phase? I have also worked on phase 4 studies. I've worked on one of my first phase 4 studies after being a coordinator for 4 years. I went on to work for a breast implant manufacturer. And they had to do a 10-year observational study on 60,000 women.
My goodness, that's a big
That's
sample.
a big sample.
Yeah.
60,000 women that had gotten the breast implants for either reconstructive surgery or just cosmetic surgery. And that was a 10-year, and they did check-ins once a year, once every 3 years on how they were doing with their implants, any issues. So sometimes you'll have studies that go long time after it's approved to get that overarching what's going on, everything okay type data there. So I've kind of spanned over. And then after working on that study, I went on to be a clinical trial manager. So since about 2011, I've been in the clinical trial manager space. So what that means is that I really help with the planning of the studies with the sponsor. So they'll come and they say, hey, we want to do this big study, how can this work? And so the CTM, the clinical trial manager, really has to put on that hat, and they are overarching on everything. So they have to find the 30 or 40 investigators that will be on the study, and they have to say, hey, are you recruiting? Do you have the patients? What are the problems? And then from there, you will have to mitigate the risk on the study that's not going so well, or the data is not so good, not so clean. And so for so long, the CTMs from the start all the way to the end of the study is just managing, and the studies can go for a year, 2 years, 3 years. And so the CTMs are really the main person there. So that's what I have been doing here more recently, and then I also joined with the Clinessentials to do their training program for clinical trial managers. So I train other clinical trial managers, and then also I do educational videos on the YouTube on different topics. And so yes, I really love the teaching and the passionate about that. So yes.
Well, in our cases, probably our experience is
A little bit
different.
Yes, yes, yes. But I want to hear about your experience.
I am interested in the biomedical engineering part of the research or part of the work. On rare occasions where we actually reach the clinical level studies, it's more of like lab research. Because before you start trying things on human subjects, usually you have to spend a lot of time.
Exactly.
My journey actually started a very long time ago with, and that involved clinical studies on human subjects in the operating theater. That was trying to measure some electrical activity of the bundle of His, which is in the conduction system of the heart.
Okay.
But using non-invasive methods. Because the actual approved method used by surgeons is the invasive one, where they do catheterization, insert catheters all the way to the part that links the atria with the ventricles, and they do recordings there. So the question was, can we get the signals without doing that? So that was my first research, where I spent about 3 years developing some technology to record non-invasively using just standard chest leads.
Yes.
And we had to verify, we had to test whether this technique that I came up with actually is able to do the job. And so at that time, more than 30 years ago, maybe things were a bit easier. It did not take long before I got the permissions to actually do simultaneous recording.
Yes.
Using my instruments
and the invasive
and their invasive instruments. And I got my PhD for that.
Wow. Amazing. So it was good. It was good.
So that was a nice experience, because I was actually allowed in the operating theater, where I was able to connect the patient who's being operated on to the equipment.
Yes.
Of course, the equipment had to pass all these safety regulations and all of that. So that was a very nice and successful experience. After that, when I moved to this part of the world, my research was more lab-based work. Sometimes we had to conduct experiments on animals.
Yes.
We don't have an animal facility here.
Okay.
So I collaborated with a well-known scientist in Johns Hopkins University.
Yes.
We actually started there about 20 years ago, trying to develop a method for assessing global brain injury following cardiac arrest.
Oh, wow.
The experiment involved animal model, rat model. We conducted experiments over several years where we would induce, the cardiac arrest, then with different levels of asphyxic cardiac, asphyxic brain injury, and which is like mild or medium or severe, and then record the signals using some specially designed electrodes attached to the skull of the animal, and do advanced signal processing on these signals to actually measure the level of brain injury.
Oh, wow.
Because in hospitals, when somebody just suffered from cardiac arrest, they may resuscitate the patient, and they may recover from the cardiac arrest. But if it was a little bit late, few minutes late, it may injure the brain. The question is how much damage happened. It's not that easy, and X-rays and CTs, they don't show exactly.
No.
So our method actually was considered to be an advanced method in doing that. The experiments, as I said, were conducted in the lab on animal models. However, we managed to get some recordings from a patient.
Oh, really?
Yeah, who was at the hospital, and we were able to monitor his EEG before a cardiac arrest happened to him.
Oh, wow.
And resuscitation, and that was a nice proof the method was effective.
Yes.
Then we used the same method to test some hypotheses which said that hypothermia, improves the neurological outcome
Yes.
after cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
There were experiments on where we had to apply hypothermia on animal models and see if the neurological outcome is better than without.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was a nice experience. Another project that I'm still involved in, almost 2 decades now,
Wow.
which is assessment of spinal cord injury.
We need that.
Yes, that's actually one of the interesting projects that I'm still involved in.
Yes.
And the technique we use is we stimulate the limbs with some electrical stimulation. We stimulate the nerves. And I'm like, with my background in electrical engineering,
Yes.
I kind of looked at the spinal cord as if it's a transmission line system.
Yes.
So you stimulate the limbs, the electrical signal goes through the spinal cord all the way to the
Brain.
to the brain, and there I monitor the response to this impulse
Yes.
at the brain side, and the shape and the actual information in the shape of the way we call it somatosensory evoked potentials.
Yes.
Those evoked potentials, they have very well defined shape in a healthy spine.
Oh, wow.
Healthy neurons. But if there is damage in some of the fibers or complete damage or whatever, it will show on that signal.
Wow.
So with our engineering background, we used so many sophisticated methods to try to quantify the level of injury.
Yes.
Whether it's mild or severe, very severe. There are grades. We kind of like put grades to these to the levels of injury. This project actually is still ongoing.
Wow.
Yeah, because because of the every time we make progress, there is more to actually advance.
Yes.
The project that I'm involved, or we actually still involved in with Rashid Hospital here in Dubai, the source localization, brain source localization in epilepsy patients.
Oh, wow.
The doctor actually, that was his initiative when he said, look, we have many epileptic patients. We give them medicine, we treat, we do all the methods that we know, but we reach a decision that sometimes that we need to operate.
Yes.
We need to remove parts of the brain that we think is responsible for this epilepsy.
Yes.
Like in severe cases. The problem that we face is, how do I localize where this epilepsy is coming from?
Yes.
Because they make mistakes, by the way. Sometimes they operate and they discover that was not the right location. So it's devastating.
Yes.
What we do, we take the EEG signals from the patient, and we use these signals, and we solve some mathematical problem called the inverse problem. We go back and try to predict where the source come from.
Wow.
Using these signals from the different parts of the brain. So when we solve this inverse problem, this helps us to kind of pinpoint at least the area where the source might be.
Wow.
So this is another project. I'm just going through some of the...
This is amazing.
This is some of the projects that we've been involved in. By the way, the brain injury, we got a US patent for the idea. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's excellent.
One obstacle we're facing at the hospital with the epilepsy is that we are unable to do clinical trials.
Ah, Why is that?
Why is that? Because I mean, the main reason is that the techniques or the algorithms that we use, verification means the patient has to go through surgery and all of that.
Yeah.
So we have not reached that level.
Yeah.
Where the patient would, give consent to actually doing the operation.
Yeah.
And then test the results whether it is correct or not.
Are there instances where they sign up for the surgery and you can...
Yeah, that's what I said. The hospital kind of reluctant to actually move into that step. We had a very interesting project for pregnant women, the fetal ECG.
Really?
We can record ECG from adults, from the mother. But the fetus heart is kind of independent from the mother's heart.
Yes.
And when you record the fetus heart, the ECG signal or heart rate, we use ultrasound usually. But what we're trying to do, we're trying to measure the ECG, the electrical activity of the heart muscle itself of the fetus. Because this can also help to diagnose some problems before delivery.
Exactly, yes, because there's a lot of operations sometimes that have to happen in utero.
Exactly, or even during delivery, if there is complications.
Exactly.
At the moment, the way they do it, they put electrodes, they kind of like needle electrodes to the fetus as it's coming out,
Oh, wow.
Which is not very pleasant.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, we're proposing to use simple electrodes on the abdomen of the mother.
Very simple.
To get the same result.
And so are you doing a comparison of the current method versus...
Right, exactly, yeah. And we got a US patent for this method as well.
Wow, look at you. This is exciting. And all of these things that you're doing, you're on the brink, or you're there and you have the patent because it's needed for when we get to the clinical studies.
I'll tell you about this patent.
What?
For example, this patent, we just did not settle with the patent. I actually went ahead and developed the whole system, the hardware, and we kind of like handled the total cost of everything of the prototype. But being at a university, being a professor, being involved with teaching students and whatever, I have very little experience. That was more than 10 years ago. I have very little experience in commercializing these ideas.
Yes, yes.
Or taking them to hospital, to the clinical level where they can be tested.
Yes.
Of course, we did test them on a sample of pregnant ladies.
Yes.
We did collaborate with one of the hospitals called Latifa Hospital in Dubai. This is for just women and children. So we did collaborate with them for 2 years, and we collected for almost 50 pregnant ladies just to prove the idea.
Yeah, prove the idea.
But then to move into the clinical trials and the industrial level, it stopped there. You're
right on the brink. And the reason being is because I've been working with various sponsors I worked with a big sponsor. We did a lot of ALS studies, and we used a lot of forthcoming, new equipment that was, still being tested for the efficacy. Does this work? We're comparing it to the standard of care. And that study had so many different companies that would help their proof of concept. So you're right there.
Yeah. We have many ideas. You have many. And we've tested them, and they actually moved forward to very advanced level.
Yes.
But when it comes to the clinical, commercial, whatever, we stop there.
Well, see, we're gonna change this conversation is gonna change that. There's gonna be someone that is doing, either they have a drug study or they have an exploratory objective of what you have available, and they need that information, and this is a way to bridge. We're gonna help bridge this gap, because you have such good techniques there.
and after working for many years with the clinical side,
yes,
I decided to switch to non-clinical. And the non-clinical I have two major projects.
Okay.
And they're really, really interesting. One of them is to use brain signals to monitor vigilance and attention.
Oh, wow.
This is mainly for applications that require surveillance, airport security, people sitting, looking at the screens all the time. Are they really vigilant enough to see the targets?
Yeah, exactly.
Lorry drivers, especially the ones who drive in the desert here for many, many hours.
Yeah.
By the way, most of the accidents that lead to deaths here are because of lorry drivers driving for a long time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So, of course, many companies, by the way, like Mercedes and BMW, are interested in this problem.
Yeah, Tesla.
And they have developed some techniques where they monitor your eyes and see. In our case, we're proposing the brain signal, because the brain signal is the direct measurement.
Yes.
All the others are really non-direct measurements. So we are working on analyzing the EEG signal and trying to monitor the vigilance decrement. And once that happens, we are trying to do certain interventions to improve vigilance. It's like a closed loop system.
What are we observing, and then how can we improve?
Exactly. So if we notice a drop,
it's going down,
then we
boost it.
We boost it, and we have used several methods. We've used 3 techniques already. One was the kind of like the surprise and integrating of challenging tasks. For example, somebody is watching the screen, and vigilance starts dropping, starts raining.
Yes.
And the camera will not show you the nice, clear picture.
Yeah.
So that raises your attention and trying to look more carefully or with more interest into the picture. We tested that, which is the challenge.
Yes.
The second one, we used tactile stimulation. So if somebody is like driving like lorry drivers, and after a while they kind of start drifting, then you'll have this nice sensation, that will actually make you
move your fingers and wake up.
Yeah, exactly. Third method that we have actually used is something called binaural beat stimulation, where you will apply different frequencies to the ears. Like you apply here, for example, 200, here 210. It's like 10 hertz difference. And this somehow makes the brain starts dancing, oscillating with this frequency,
keep you up and lively.
And that actually proved to be effective in keeping the vigilance longer. We're also interested in stress, mental stress. This is, of course, the peak.
That's a big one.
Yeah. We're, of course, interested in mental stress in the workplace. So all our experiments are on workers working in their offices or whatever.
Oh, wow.
So that's much easier than doing it in the clinic. Now you understand.
Yes, it is. Okay, what's the biggest work stress? Emails coming through? Or meetings, bosses? Which one?
Right. So we do experiments on people in the workplace. And we are also trying to think of methods to mitigate mental stress.
Yeah.
Our work was recognized, or Mohammed bin Rashid, the Space Center, they recognized this is of their of interest. This work is of interest to them in their research work to send man to Mars. They have this project, by the way.
Yes.
While preparing the astronauts for this task, we do something called confinement, where the astronauts would live in a confined place for 8 continuous months. It's worse than a prison, by the way.
Yeah, I bet.
Because they live in a cylinder, which is like similar to the shuttle or whatever.
Yeah.
And they have to conduct their business, everything in that cylinder, for 8 months. And our next experiment, we have already finished one experiment for 8 months.
Wow.
And we have published our work in some conferences.
Yes.
And our next project is going to be with NASA, by the way.
Wow.
NASA is interested in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Everything that you have said that you're doing, someone is going to be interested in that.
Yeah.
And that stress.
That stress is the project where I got people from outside that were really interested in this.
Yes, because stress is a big issue.
It's a big issue.
It's a
right.
big issue.
Yeah,
And a lot of, I also see that stress, the work that you're doing with that stress, because there's a lot of diseases, like, I'm not sure, epilepsy, the stress.
Chronic stress can cause a lot of diseases.
A lot of diseases are the trigger for...
It can hurt the heart, the
Yes.
kidneys, the brain. Yeah, it can cause many problems.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that's a precursor too. I could see that as a part of clinical trials, even that as well.
I mean, they are, at the moment, I can see why they're interested. They
Yes.
want to use it to pre-screen
Yeah, pre-screen.
astronauts,
Yes,
to know
exactly.
who's really
Yeah.
overstressed,
Exactly.
who is, the stress level is lower.
Exactly.
Because those are the ones who can handle these
Handle
long
the
trips.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, even in the military, you could see that.
Military, yeah.
You want to see who's...
But in the military, I usually move away from the military. I try to
Yeah.
not to do a lot of work with the military. So these are kind of a summary of what I've been working on over this, I don't know, few decades of my life.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so we in the US, we kind of term them like an investigator initiated trials. Are you familiar with that term?
Well, initiated trials, because it goes beyond just initiation.
Yes.
I don't know.
So we have them, it's like an investigator who
Because
has
we
that.
publish our work in, peer-reviewed journals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the U.S., we'll have different investigators who have the ideas, and they'll go from creating the protocol. These are the time points that we need to collect the data. Go ahead
Yeah.
and analyze the data and publish it.
Yeah.
So you are doing lots of those investigator-initiated trials that we would say in the U.S. maybe termed differently here in Dubai, but this is also so very important work, because a lot of the pharmaceutical companies, they will get with the investigators who initiated these trials and collected this data and use it in different ways once they have it.
Yeah.
So this is
So it's really at the research level.
it's great.
Yeah.
We need the research in order to go to the next stage. So
Correct.
your work is very important and it's very exciting. What would you say you enjoy most about the work that you do?
You mean the projects? Which projects?
Yes, the projects, or just in general, like what makes you so excited to keep doing it, 3 decades later?
First of all, the projects, of course, to them, they're all very interesting.
Yes.
And exciting. Every one of these projects is, to me, is very interesting and exciting. But as I said, the problem of continuity, where sustainability, to sustain, you need interest from the customer, and you need the money to keep funding the work. Yeah.
Yes.
So, but probably now, because I'm heavily involved in the mental stress research, probably to me this is the most interesting and exciting piece of work. As I said, I'm still working with the spinal cord injury. My collaborator is actually in Hong Kong. They do the experiments there, and I do the data analysis here. So that's the kind of collaboration.
Yes.
Yeah. Of course, one of the most interesting and exciting parts of my work is involving students, because students are, the future scientists.
Exactly.
And I involve actually even undergraduate students, not master and PhD students.
That's nice.
Even undergraduate students, I get them involved in research and make them actually go through the whole exercise. And some of them have already actually their names been on some of the articles we published. And because of this training, many of them actually managed to continue and do their PhDs in top schools,
Wow.
you know, in the US and in Europe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they are well trained
Yes.
on not just the knowledge side, the basic knowledge, but also how to actually do an investigation, how to ask the right research questions, how to yeah. So they have been involved in the process.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What is the name of one of the courses that you teach?
I teach, of course, fundamental courses, you know, to electric engineer students, for example, electronics, yeah. But to more senior level students, I teach biomedical instrumentation. This is which is needed for research now.
Yep.
We're talking about sensors, we're talking about transducers, amplifiers, pre-processing, data acquisition.
Yes.
So I'm involved in that, and I teach them that. In the master's level, I teach a course called neuroengineering, which fits nicely with the research work that I'm involved in.
Yes.
And many of the students are actually taking the course, are my students doing the research. And to the PhD level, I have two courses. One of them is called Research Methods, where I teach the students how to actually conduct research.
Yes.
And one is called Human Augmentation. This I haven't taught yet, but this is something that falls under the umbrella of you know, vigilance enhancements.
Yes.
And
Wow,
yeah.
this is amazing. It reminds me, I did my master's in clinical research at University of California, San Diego, UCSD.
Right,
And
nice.
so these courses that you're teaching were some of the courses that I took when I was, and at the end, our thesis was I had to write a protocol, you know, all of the entire protocol for more. Mine was on diversity in the African American community.
Nice.
And if doing more health fairs or education increased their likelihood to participate in clinical research studies, just because of the education. Because there's a lot of taboo and fear because they don't know and they're not sure, and so they just stay away from it more so than participate.
Well, I mean, there are some bad stories as well.
Yes, the
I mean,
Tuskegee
of
and
experiments that were
exactly.
conducted on African Americans that are, and I mean, nowadays they're considered as crime.
Yeah,
you know?
it is.
But but actually many of the IRB regulations, Institutional Research Board regulations on conducting experiments in humans came from experiments happened started maybe 50, 60 years ago.
Yep, exactly. 100%. That's the reason why we have the informed consents and the IRBs and making sure a lot of the processes we have in place is especially just because of that. So it comes full circle sometimes, but unfortunately it had to go through.
But we have to, because there is so many, also participation there's so many benefits.
Yes.
To the patients themselves.
Exactly.
To the scientific community, to the,
Yeah.
So it is, it's, I think awareness and education, of course, is very important.
Yeah.
So, and what's the outcome of your research on this? Is education helping? Or?
Yes, it does help. Also working with investigators from their community, African American investigators, Hispanic investigators. There's more of a trust there, especially if their investigators are participating in research and still have their practice. So a lot of times, you know, they go and see their primary care physician for their regular checkups, and then their investigator tells them, oh, we have a study about diabetes or weight loss, you know, go down to our research department. That right there, it goes a long way because they're already trusting of their investigator because they're their primary care, as well as for those that don't regularly go to the doctor, having health educational fairs in the community where they learn about clinical research, they learn about the option to be in a study to get treatment if they're not getting treated. And then for the centers that are there doing research, being accommodating to their population. So maybe childcare services while the patients are getting their procedures done, or early morning or late night appointments if there's no fasting that's needed, or even Saturday clinics. Understanding the population as well will help have more willing participants there. So yeah, so there's still, I'm still working, collecting data, but you know, I have found some good correlations of getting more African Americans and Hispanics participating.
In research.
In research. So yes, it's and even now we just had the FDA that has now mandated more of the pharmaceutical companies to have a specific portion of diversity in the clinical research trials now.
Actually, in the research methods, the course that I'm
teaching,
it's designing the experiment.
Yes.
And the way you choose your subjects or the samples dictates that you should have a randomized kind of sample, which includes all the...
Excellent. Because now the FDA is moving towards, they have released the guidances where now it's no longer a nice to have, it's a you have to have.
In order for your study to be comprehensive and recognized and respected
and approved. Eventually, when you want to get to that approval stage, we want to make sure that you had a nice diverse population and didn't leave out the population that would eventually take your medication. So yes, so there's, you know, the things change slowly over the 20 years that when I first got into now, things have been changing slowly, but it's good. We still have more work to do.
Of course.
And it's great that we have collaborations like ourselves. And, you know, we got right into it, but could you introduce yourself? We didn't go into the introductions. We just jumped right into the information.
The interesting stuff,
Yeah, so introduce yourself, please, so they can know.
Yeah, well, my name is Hassan Al-Nashash. I'm a professor of electrical and biomedical engineering. And I've been in academia for over 3 decades now.
Wow.
And I teach undergraduates, masters, and PhD students. My area of interest actually covers whatever is related to biomedical research. So I claim that I understand electronics, and the data acquisition of biological information, or physiological data. And I also do advanced signals and signal processing to extract information and analyze the data in order to reach some sort of conclusions on the experiments we do. And that's I have worked in Jordan. I worked in the UK. I also spent my sabbatical, I told you, at Johns Hopkins. I also spent another sabbatical at National University of Singapore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I worked in Jordan as well. I worked in Oman, nearby, and I worked in UAE now. I'm a pioneer in this university.
Wow.
Actually, I joined this university 25 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we started from scratch.
Yes. Wow. And where are we, for the listeners listening in, what university are we at? It's a beautiful campus.
This is the American University of Sharjah. It's one of the top schools in the Middle East.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's known for its high quality education.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was established back in 1997, and it has 4 colleges. One of them is College of Engineering, and in engineering here, we cover the whole spectrum, the mechanical, electrical, computer, etc. But one of the interesting areas that we also give attention to is biomedical engineering and bioengineering in general.
Yes.
By the way, this university is not for profit school, and we focus on quality. That's why our students maximum reach about 5,000 students.
Oh wow!
Yeah. The female population is almost 50%.
Wow.
Almost. Yeah. It's like that's maybe 48% or something. Changes from year to year. It has a diverse population. We have almost 100 nationalities.
Wow.
Students from all over the world. So we have Emiratis, we have Saudis, we have Egyptians, Palestinians, Americans, British. Yeah. So we have almost 100 nationalities.
Wow.
Yeah. In the main building. When you go into the main building, there's in the rotunda there, we have the flags of all the countries. The university is modeled on the American system of education, liberal arts, where liberal arts is a major component of education. So students have to take many general education.
Yep.
So in addition to the English and whatever, some of them learn history, music, philosophy, whatever, in addition to engineering.
Yes.
So they become rounded individuals.
Yeah.
When we started, we were affiliated, the engineering was affiliated to Texas A&M.
Oh, really? That's down the street from me.
Now that brings me, why did I visit Texas A&M?
Yes.
And the whole university was actually affiliated with the university, Washington University. Yeah, and our first chancellor was actually from the University of Washington.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, his name, Professor Roderick French. He was a great leader.
Yes.
Yeah. This is kind of a quick round about myself as a professional from professional point of view and my university. From family point of view, I'm married. I have 4 children.
Oh,
I'm a grandfather.
And he's just beaming with his nice smile.
Thank you. Yeah, I have two daughters, 2 sons. And my eldest daughter, she's a civil engineer. She has her own company in 3D printing and all of that.
Oh, 3D printing, yes.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, that's the next wave.
So her children, her eldest, I think, child is about 11 years old.
Okay.
And my son, he's also married. He lives, they're all here in Dubai, by the way.
Oh, wow.
And the third daughter, my third child is Mariam, her name. She is doing psychology.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She has 1 year to go.
Okay.
And the youngest, Abdullah, he's 1 year or 2 more years before he goes to university.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he wants to be a lawyer.
Okay.
So
everybody is
diverse.
Very diverse. Oh, that is wonderful.
So that's me.
Well, thank you so much for having me here and spending some time with me.
Yeah.
Yes, I sent you an email and you were very responsive. You got back to me, and it's just been a pleasure interacting with you up until now, and even more of a pleasure sitting here with you and just learning.
Thank you. And thank you for your visit and the effort also to come and visit us here. We do appreciate that.
Yes.
And I hope this will lead to more interesting things as well. Yeah?
I know, exactly. I hope so too. And we have our network, especially on LinkedIn, is very vast. And so we meet with people from all over the world, and even in my clinical trial management, working with different companies that are developing the protocol and they need input. They're looking for exploratory objectives, and we're before we can even get the study off the ground, we have to finalize the protocol and all of the, to make sure their hypothesis and everything they're looking to collect is there. So you're now forever connected with me. So I look forward to working with you, you know, even more so in the future.
Me too. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much.